is Wednesday. Yeah, for those of you keeping track, it is Wednesday. And I'm super excited because today we are starting in the Bible reading that I'm doing, starting into Matthew in the New Testament. Still also in Deuteronomy for I think a few more days. And but I'm excited to move into Matthew. It's actually one of my favorite books in the whole Bible. In fact, when I was coming back to faith as a new believer, it was the book of Matthew that really drew me in, and where I sort of had a moment of revelation where I was struggling in my faith. I wasn't sure what I believed or what I was looking for really. And as I started to read through the book of Matthew, I came to the conclusion that I don't have a problem with Jesus. I've never had a problem with Jesus. I have a problem with other people. And sometimes those are even other people that are following Jesus, but that's a completely different problem to have than having a problem with God or having a problem with Jesus. And I wasn't going to I made a decision at that point, I wasn't going to let my relationship with Jesus, my relationship with God, be hindered because I had a problem with other people. In fact, if you think about it, it doesn't really even make a whole lot of sense because we're told that in God's Word that we are surrounded by broken and sinful people. So if our faith is built on the way that other people treat us or our connection to other people, then it's really a house of cards. It is probably not going to stand up for very long at all. It'll come crumbling down. But if the foundation of our faith is founded on Jesus, well, that is not a house of cards. That is a strong building where Jesus is the cornerstone. So Matthew, this is one of my favorite verses out of Matthew 1:23. Look, the virgin will conceive a child. She will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. And I'm not going to say a heck of a lot about this, only that I think it's amazing that God came here to be with us. God is with us. He was with us when he came to earth. He remains with us, and he will continue to be with us. And that's an extremely powerful concept to grasp for our mental, our physical, and our emotional health. And it's also really important and relevant even today to know that God is with us, that Jesus is with us. He's been with us since before we were born, and he remains with us even now in our struggles, in our trials, in our difficulties, and he will continue to be with us through life and for eternity. So that statement is extremely powerful and useful in terms of our identity. The other thing, I think that the other thing I wanted to say just regarding the book of Matthew and something that I discovered helped me through a lot is really when we're taking a look and examining the heart of God and trying to understand who God is, Old Testament, New Testament, present times, future times, it's important to remember that Jesus is what God has to say about himself, right? Jesus defines God, right? He's he is the living, breathing person of God. So if we're struggling in our faith, if we're reading, some of these things in the Old Testament that we are challenged by, that we may feel like, oh, God is a retributional God, or he's a punishing God, or he's a cruel God, as we read those things. If we're feeling that in our hearts about ourselves, that God is angry with us, God is disappointed in us, God's ashamed of us, we need to return to Jesus. And that's not just an easy out either, okay? Because Jesus was really very truthful with people. He didn't sugarcoat things. He didn't always put things in the friendliest way possible. He was honest. and yet he was loving. He was perfect. He was loving. He was patient. He was kind, and that's an important point to remember when we're trying to align our hearts and our understanding of who God is. We look to Christ, and it is our relationship with Jesus that will sustain us over time. So if you're struggling with that, and yesterday I talked about obedience and discipline from God, if that's an area of difficulty with you where you feel like God is punishing you, God is being cruel or unkind or somehow an imperfect father, return to Jesus. Go back to Jesus. Listen to what Jesus has to say about God, because he knows. God bless you guys. I look forward to doing a little more connecting tomorrow. Hope you're having a great week. Tomorrow's Thursday, just for your calendar so you can keep track of that. See you later.